just reading my favorite book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. Urge you to read the same. So, hey, look, we're changing around the set. You can see I got my new little dream car here that I've been wanting for a long time. This is a 1997 FZJ80 40-year anniversary special. Special thanks to Jose, who helped me find this thing in Illinois. They just shipped it here last week, and anyhow, it's going to be part of our backdrop here. I want to tell you right now, the economy is going poorly, and it's going to get a lot worse, and we can talk about that. You know, one of the reasons you saw this FTX exchange, one of the reasons they crashed is because people were asking for their money, and there was no money in the bank. There was no money to put out. Same thing that killed Madoff. When people started needing their money in tough times, they found out it was a big Ponzi scheme. And so more of the same is coming from that. And we're going to get into all that in a minute. And so just hang on. Anyways, we're playing around with the new set here. You can see the backdrop is the cool car, or what I think is a cool car. I'm more of an off-roader than I am. This is a perfect car for me for bird dogging and all that sort of thing. Hey, if you don't have a copy of my book, be sure to get my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. You can hit that Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate button. And it's been a bestseller on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. And it will shortcut you in a big way. I've got many millionaires in the mentorship. If you go down the links below, you'll see I got a free webinar. Also have the mentorship survey. Urge you to check that out. But go to flipanythingusa.com. And but anyway, let's get into it and talk about this. And Chris here with me. And be sure to hit that subscribe button. Anyways, so Chris is here. You got any questions? He can pull it up on his laptop, and we'll talk about it. Anyhow, what do you guys think of the backdrop?
Hey, it's cool to finally get it in the studio here.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I love the. I mean, I've already been driving the hell out of it, and but
we got room for another little toy in here.
Yeah, we got room for another toy here, and I'm looking at one. Who knows? I was looking at the Pretty Woman car. There's a Lotus.
Oh, a Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, Lotus is. I'm not a huge car guy, anyways, but it is kind of a cool car.
It's funny. This guy that I followed on Instagram for a while. He and his family traveled the states in one of those Volkswagen Westfalia Vanagons.
Oh wow!
And
pretty slow ride.
Yeah, but pretty, pretty, just nostalgic. Really cool. It's got the little kitchenette in there. But I went over to his house for dinner when I was visiting them in Colorado. They were giving me a house tour, and then I was like, "Oh, is this the garage?" And I just kind of opened the door, and he had a Lotus sitting in the garage. And I was like, "Whoa, dude, you got a Lotus?" And he's like, "Yeah, I drive it on the weekends, But they're like little go-karts,
Yeah, the ones that I remember from the 70s when I'd seen the 70s, you could look through the glass in the back and you'd see a big, beautiful V8. This Lotus that was in that, but it's only a 4-cylinder. It's a turbo, but yeah, it's whatever. I'm more leaning toward maybe.
You're thinking about a Porsche.
I like
right?
a Porsche Spider. Oh yeah, they're pretty expensive, and but I also like that Cobra, the one that Graham's got. Graham, Stefan, do you know what that is?
Is it a GT 500?
It's a GT, yeah. That one's a pretty one too. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, hey guys, we're here for the next 45 minutes or so. If you got questions about real estate, questions regarding or comments regarding the crash, layoffs, FTX, midterms, whatever it is, drop it in the comments. I'll make sure to bring it up in our conversation. So, Tom, why don't we do this first? I missed the FTX news. Could you enlighten me and maybe some other people that don't know much about that? What's going on there?
Look, I've never been I don't invest in that type of stuff. I've been calling the Bitcoin trading turds, just like Charles Munger and Warren Buffett. I don't like it. And the problem is that all these kids and other people got stimulus checks, and it was free money. And here's the problem: when you don't earn it, you're not careful with it. And that's what happened. A lot of people weren't careful with their money, They ended up spending it. Amazon benefited from all the spending, and all these people that benefited from the spending now got burned. And even Amazon leased millions and millions of square feet of warehouses, rented, not created or built. They rented millions of square feet of a warehouse that they don't need. And now they're subletting it, and they're having trouble getting it subletted because there's nobody to take it right now.
Yeah, that puts you in a pretty rough spot.
Yeah, and now and I was talking about earlier. I've been through a crash. I started in a crash in '81 when I bought my first property. So there's going to be fantastic opportunities for everybody in that crash. But right now, this is a really good time to wait. And you guys know, I always say it's never a bad time to invest in real estate. As long as there's no bad real estate. There's just bad deals. Don't make a bad deal, and you can make a lot of money. The place I'm sitting in, I bought this, 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago, and I bought 3 other houses before that. I bought one after this as well. So I buy during a crash. It's not a problem, but it's really for a little more sophisticated investor buying in these times right now. Yeah. You can't go in green. You'll end up getting burned probably. And it's a great time to get your skills. That's why I say get the book, sit tight, save your money, keep your overhead low. Most important thing you can do, keep your overhead low. Believe me, I rented places and owned real estate. I owned real estate and was building my portfolio. But if I could rent a decent place to live for less than I'd have to pay to purchase it, I just rented from somebody else. It wasn't a big deal because the money that I was getting from what I was renting that I could live in was twice what I was paying and that's really a good investment for any of you young guys or any of you guys that are renting right now, is don't be afraid to rent. Go negotiate the best deal you can on something you can rent far cheaper than what you can, remember the Cato Kalin behind OJ? Had a sweet deal, lived in Brentwood, California, and of course he had a witness or semi-witness a murder of OJ killing his wife, but he had a cool deal, right? He had living in the back at a cool little guest house, and those things are out there and they do exist. And I know some people that have had situations like that to take advantage of.
Yeah, and especially if you can, maybe even you're purchasing, you are looking to purchase a property instead of rent. If you can purchase a property where you could live in one part of the property and then rent out the other part, that's a great deal.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people will refer to that as a hack or this or that. But in all honesty, I still think even one better than that, Chris, is rent both sides of that duplex and go rent something even cheaper than what you would get out of that one side. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, it's just kind of like, I think it's true whenever you look at someone's lifestyle, and you know what? Sure, there are some people that maybe they get lucky, or they had money handed down to them, and you see them and you're like, man, they must be a millionaire. You know what? They probably are. But most people that really have a lot of money, they know what it takes to hold on to that money, to only invest in things that make you money.
Yeah.
And so they're willing to, Tom, I'm around you a lot, you're not going to the drive-throughs or going out to eat and all of that.
I buy some good wine.
No, sure, but
and I'm on a diet.
But you're not just blowing your money on all kinds of stuff. You're very careful, even though you have a lot of money. You're very careful on what you spend your money on.
Yeah, I am, but I wouldn't say that I'm frugal. In all honesty, I don't think twice about buying. And listen, Primarily, I buy from the people that rent from me, to be honest.
Right.
So I try to be generous. I overbuy when I buy food. I buy stuff for people to give away wherever I'm at, whether it's food park or restaurant or one of the establishments that I own. Meaning I own the walls. I don't own the company. But I try to just trying to be a good landlord and participate and help spread the word and help them grow.
But the point I'm making is you talk about the early days. When you were starting as an investor, you really you put all of your money into the real estate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, to your point, I don't waste money. I can tell you right now, everything I buy is an investment. Everything I buy. This car behind me right here, this is a classic. It's not going to go down in value. It's going to go up in value. And I enjoy it and I like it and I drive it and it's actually modern enough that it's quite nice to drive actually. And whatever car I buy, I'm looking forward to buying a little, maybe a Porsche Spyder or something cool. I don't even know what. Anybody got anything out there that's on a fire sale? I'll consider it if you want to sell something out there too. The other thing is look, Trump just announced he's running again. That I think is really good for the country. Win or lose, it's really good for the country, because if you watch that speech, and if you haven't watched Trump's speech, you should really watch that speech, because one thing you got to say about Trump is when he did run, he kept every promise. Everything he said he was going to do, he did. And he talks about all the problems that our current administration isn't talking about. He's talking about the border, how screwed up it is, 5 million people coming over. The drugs, we have fentanyl coming over like crazy. I know friends and family that have died now from fentanyl. I got a nephew that died about 6 months ago. Fentanyl, it's a shame. And I've got other friends that have lost kids to fentanyl, and that fentanyl is back. I mean, it was dried up. When Trump toured the country, he went back to places like New Hampshire, which is absolutely beautiful country, drug infested like you can't believe, unbelievable. And there's a lot of places like that. Even when I was in Idaho, 20 years ago, I quickly found out that a lot of these guys, that when they're out of work in the winter and they're not able to, harvest trees and loggers and stuff, a lot of those guys have major drug and alcohol problems.
Yeah.
The bars are open at 9 a.m. in the town that I was in. There was 3 bars in a tiny town, a speck of a town, had 3 bars. And I went in. I had to go there because that's where the phone booth was. Yeah. And so we got a lot of issues like that, and they don't get talked about enough. But, drugs and the immigration is a huge burden on all of us. Think about it. We have 5 million new people in this country this year. In 2 years, we've got that done. And then probably going to have 10 million within the next, because there's no will to change it. And with that comes, we have people that don't speak our language, many uneducated, and a lot of these countries are flushing the trash out of their country. A lot of these people are really bad people and criminals. I talked to a Venezuelan girl, and she said, Tom, I said, what do you think about them turning away the Venezuelans right now? I figured there was some, because a lot of Venezuelans are quite educated, to be honest. She said they're the worst Venezuelans. She said those are the ones that I left Venezuela. That's why I left. She said the really bad ones are coming in now. And she escaped, like a lot of people did into the country. And I understand, people got to do what they got to do. But the bottom line is that we're stuck taking care of them. Everything costs a lot more. It costs a lot more to eat and take care of your own family. Now imagine 5 million, that's 1.5% of our country. A little more than 1.5% of our population. That's how much. We just went up 1.5%. And that's not birds. That's just like an orphanage. We just took in all these people that just came in, and now we got to take care of them, clothe them, feed them, house them, and it costs a lot more to do that with inflation. And there's only one place to take it from, and that's our tax dollars. And
Jermone, he said, it's getting real when Costco and Sam's Clubs are dropping their hot dog combos to $1.38.
I'm not aware of that deal.
Matt Bittner said, I bet Taylor, Texas real estate will end up being recession resistant. I guess he's referring to Samsung. But I don't know if I like betting on a town based around just one company.
No, listen, I'll tell you something to that. We had a beautiful, beautiful building being constructed in downtown Austin by, one of the top 10, if not in the top 5. I can't remember, it was AMD or whatever, but it was a magnificent building. And guess what? They stopped construction on it, and about 2 years later, they tore the whole damn thing down. They changed their mind. Okay. And that can happen. That can happen. Yeah.
There's another, it kind of makes you wonder, but I know of another high-rise going up that Facebook, Meta, put a giant lease on, but now they're not taking it. And so it's like, well, what are you going to do with the building?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They mistook the wasteful spending from all the stimulus as something that wouldn't expire and go away. And now they made bets based on this growth that's not going to happen and isn't happening. Now it's actually flat going away. And you start thinking about it, I was saying early on, when I was first talking about the crash with the interest rates coming up, the things to do are, change your rates to fixed rates if you don't have fixed rates. Get your line of credit set up, or revolving lines of credit, and get a fixed rate. Try to get it for at least 2 years, because they only like to do those for a year at a time generally. And everything that I talked about that I've already witnessed in the past is coming. And then I talk about the real estate. I talk about how you'll start to see this stuff that's more rural, where they start to build like like a commercial strip center on the farther outskirts of town, anticipating the growth growing into the other side of it. That slows down or doesn't happen, then those things become, shells, and they become just vacated. They don't even get fully developed sometimes. So there's going to be stuff like that happening. It's going to take. It takes a little. Everybody goes into denial when this first happens. And there's like right now, I guarantee you, even right now, even right now, people are sitting in their homes and they don't realize that they're upside down.
Well, so Jerome said this. He said, I came across another pissed off buyer. They want to walk away from an upside down home asset. They bought it for $515 in 2021. Oof. Now it's only worth $327.
Right.
Might take it subject to.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, or maybe just buy it. Get it. You see, here's the thing. I can tell you one of the best things we can all do right now is not buy anything, or if you make an offer, make it a really poor offer. It sounds cruel, but it's just the game, right? You're taking away their hope. You're taking away, you got to give them a dose of reality. They're asking 500, offer them 300. Somebody else offers them 300. Somebody else offers them 300. And they realize, oh, shit, we're in trouble. And I mean, the bottom line is it costs you more to borrow $200,000 today than it would have cost you to borrow $400,000 6 months ago. And that's because the interest rate changes that much.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, keep your eyes open because the deals are coming. And I think the best thing you can do right now is build your confidence by building your knowledge, reading Tom's book, watching a ton of his videos, really understanding what a good deal is. Because, Tom, I've been, I sold a property back in, when was that, June? So now we're here at the end of November. I've made one purchase since then that I knew was a fantastic deal. Yeah. And just now I finally found a residential home. I'm like, ooh, this is a good deal. Mm-hmm. It pencils right.
Yeah, so those of you who don't know, Chris started out as a student. As first he read my book, and you watched my channel, and we ran into each other at I didn't know him, and then he recognized me. And it turns out he lived in the same neighborhood as my girlfriend. And he since took the mentorship. I think he was the last person to sign up in the very first mentorship I held. And he's been a rock star. And he's flipped one of his lake properties that he bought. He bought that before he ever met me, but I think I helped motivate him to get rid of it when he did. And it's been a good thing. And so, but what's cool is, Chris, you've bought several properties. You bought the land with the trailer on it, the land, you flipped the land by itself. You bought another house with a buddy, refurbished that and sold that. And it was really neat because
another vacant lot.
And another vacant lot. See,
and now two vacant lots.
See, this is what's awesome. But was really rewarding for me as your mentor, right, is I come in the door. Chris was setting some things up. I had to run an errand. I come back in, and he's going over his DocuSign document and reviewing it with the agent. And the seller's on board to sign this deal, and he's going through it, and he's making sure everything's clear before he hits the go button. And he says, "Okay, man, let's get it wrapped up." I mean, he sounds like me.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, and whenever I'm making deals or negotiating with the agents or directly with the owner, I really am. I'm asking myself, man, how would Tom do this? And I use the same phrases. I use some of the same tactics that you teach in the mentorship. And it's really interesting is like after you do it 2 or 3 times. I'm losing count now. I have a binder, kind of like yours. I'm starting to keep track of all my HUD statements. But I start keeping track. I'm like, okay, like it becomes easier and easier to negotiate and make these deals.
And so it was nice because when I was listening to him, like I said, he is doing he's following all the fundamentals. I mean, they become fundamentals. There's just some things that are just kind of basic. And then there's nuances to it, and I can see him even putting his own nuances on deals that, as he's talking through. And, this is probably one of the best things that, and why people have been so successful, is because what I can't really put in the book is every scenario there is in in negotiations. And so it's fantastic, as you'll see in the class too. I've got like a couple hundred hours now of mentoring meetings on top of the class, a couple hundred hours. And that is pure gold in itself, because it's deals that I'm negotiating that I share and talk about. But not just that, it's the students. The students, will say, hey, I'm talking to Chris. Chris got in a deal here Wednesday. He called me, texted me this. We talked about it. This is how we're handling it. Hey, how'd that go, Chris? Oh, man, I got it. These are the kinds of things. And we have, people in the class, Liam, Ron. God, there's so many people now that have done so well.
And when they talk about specific deals, almost every time, whether somebody's talking about residential, commercial, vacant land, no matter what part of the country they're in, they usually bring something up that I start scratching my head about, and I'm like, oh, that's a great point, or that's a great question. And you don't get that unless you're rubbing shoulders with the other 100 people.
Yeah, listen, it's like going to Harvard real estate school. It really is, except it's better. It's straight to the point, and it's 100% real, and it's active, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper and a hell of a lot more profitable. Yeah. Look, I know a lot of highly educated people, and I can only think of one highly educated person that makes more money than I do, that I personally know. Sure. And they're in the stratosphere. They did something really smart, and they got, they caught a piece of the wave. And but that's the only person.
So and I've heard about this strategy before. 777, first they said love the cruiser. So nice backdrop. Yep. But speaking of cruisers and cars, he said, hey, what about making money on a self-serve car wash? And, you see stuff like this for sale sometimes, be it a car wash, laundromat, some of these service commercial properties that you can make money on. But have you ever owned a car wash, Tom, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, the car washes I looked at, the reason I looked at them was for converting them into buildings and just turn them into and I have a nice video we did on that. Yeah.
So you just turn the bays into
an office,
each one of them.
Yeah, they don't come out perfect, but they come out good enough in the right area. It doesn't matter.
That's interesting. That's a great concept.
There's a beautiful one over not far away. I'll show you. And I showed it to the class one day too. And it was nice because I was in Google Maps, and I'm looking at it. It's a car wash, and when I come down to the road, boom, it's a building. Now it's a Montessori school actually, and so. Yeah, there's so many opportunities in taking some assets and just simply repurposing them. And believe me, we're in like the most repurposing time maybe we'll ever see in our lifetime. And a lot of it has to do with Amazon and things being delivered to you right to your door. The big malls and all that stuff. A lot of that stuff's probably just going to turn to, indoor swap meets and warehouse.
But 777, I would encourage you on the self-serve car wash. Oh, yeah. If that's something you're even thinking about, look at the books, look at the income, look at the expenses. Ask for the past 3 or 4 years what that's looked like.
Yeah, the books probably won't look good because a lot of those cash type businesses, and a lot maybe more getting paid by credit card, but a lot of those cash type businesses, the books may be much better than they reflect because the opportunity to grab cash is very real. And on those type of things. So there's some of that you can't go by exactly, but have a talk directly with the owner. But the thing is I've seen with some of those things is, we get into a drought and, even the local authorities will say, hey, you can't use so much water, there's things that can affect you and hurt you.
You have to think through all the pros and cons of every property.
And think about vandalism and property damage, where you're buying at it. Also take a look at the crime reports. You can look up the crime reports in every city in the USA, and you'll see what percentage of that damage is property damage. There's assaults, there's all kinds of things, but property damage can be quite significant. We've had people steal ACs, condensing units, cut it. There's brass and copper. We've seen people steal. I'm talking about off the buildings itself. Other assets from the building. I've seen a building that was completely stripped of all the copper inside. They literally cut the conduit at 2 ends and pulled the copper wire through. It was a 26,000 square foot grocery store, and they probably did $500,000 damage. Yep. Unbelievable mess they left.
It'll be interesting though. When you look at properties, let's just say 50, 60 years from now, these things are gonna be full of PECs. Copper's gonna be. It'll be out
Yeah,
of
there's still
picture.
copper wire. I don't know how you're going to replace that.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
No, listen, we just made a 200-foot extension cord, and it cost $1,300. That was cost. That was just the cost of the cable and the connectors for the ends.
Yeah.
What else? Anybody got any questions? Or?
Yeah. I've asked about questions. Yeah, if you have questions, just drop them in the comments below. They're in the chat, and I'm happy to bring those up for Tom. If any current deals you've got going, any current strategies you're using, let us know what's going on.
So, but here's the thing. I don't know how many people here are kind of watching that are new or from the class that we have, but I say it's a good time to just kind of wait. And it's not wait, but you really got to be skilled to buy in a declining market. And we're in a declining market. But right now, by sitting still, it's kind of like, if you're negotiating, they'll say the guy who talks next loses. You know what I mean? You put your offer down. Well, it's kind of like that right now. We're kind of at a standoff where, and especially you guys that have money too, don't settle for a 5% return or a 6% return or a 7% return. I mean, I understand if you're under the burden of a 1031 and you got to replace your money, you got to put it somewhere. Those are your choices. But shy of that, if you have cash available to you, there's no sense, wasting it in an asset that isn't a good deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
Johnny G said, Tom, I've got a condo at 3%. I want to sell and get $100,000 to invest in my primary. Would you recommend I sell or hang tight?
I don't know what is a primary. What do you mean your primary?
Maybe in his primary household?
Well, I mean, here's the deal. You got a 3%.
Oh, no, he wants to invest. It's my primary.
Oh, I see.
So I think he's saying I have a condo I live in at 3%.
Oh, that's where you live. Okay.
I want to sell and get $100,000 to invest.
Does that mean you're going to be paying rent?
Yeah, Johnny, tell us a little bit more about your scenario.
Listen, cash is going to be wonderful. I mean, what I don't know is how good a deal you're sitting in and how advantageous it is for you to stay or leave. But obviously, if there's $100,000 sitting there, I mean, maybe you could just get a line of credit and just have $60,000 that you can draw on that on demand whenever you need it, and then have that availability to you. And then when you find something that is, that you can double your money on, you suck that 60 grand out and throw it down or pay cash for whatever you're buying, and then just flip that and double your money. You can double your money. You can triple your money. When you're buying stuff under $100,000, that is the easiest opportunities.
Sure.
And you found that to be true for yourself, correct?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I did it 2 times in a row. Well, one of them I tripled my money. The other one I doubled my money. Yeah. So anything you're investing under $100,000, you really can if you buy it correctly. And one thing, I think this is kind of what you're saying too, but like you could even do once you find a deal and get it locked up, you could do a cash out refinance on your place or a line of credit to just use that money and stay where you're at.
Yeah, and the thing right now though is it's like part of the game right now. Sometimes it's like when you're negotiating, there's certain things you do and don't do depending on the seller. Well, right now, you interest rates going up, which means the values are going down. The people that want to sell right now are painfully aware of that because the agents are saying, hey, we have competing properties that have lowered their price. Do you want to lower your price? And they don't, but they do. And so, and they usually lower them too slowly. They don't keep up with the demand that's driving it down. And then as a result, when they really get into where they really want the money, they take a big drastic step, and then they kind of do what I teach in the chapter about leapfrogging. They make a big discount because, in fact, Russ who's in the class, giving an idea of what I'm talking about, this is a perfect illustration of it. Russ is a brilliant guy in the class, made a lot of money, beautiful family, and he's living the dream. Well, he found a building that he figured was worth at a peak was worth about $1.6 million, and he still thinks it's worth about $1.2 million. Again, it was poorly managed and put forth by the agent. The agent didn't do a good job representing the property. This is something that you'll find is a real deal in my class as well. And you can make a lot of money from an ignorant agent or a lazy agent, and that's kind of what happened with him. So he got this deal. He was watching it, and it was down to 750,000. But it's at a time right now when people are afraid, people are scared. They're kind of starting to realize, if they have listen, if you have a variable rate home, you've seen your mortgage get more expensive each month. So just sitting still, you have less cash to spend every month because your mortgage is going up. And so people have been it's starting to affect the market. Well, he saw that, and then the seller that's selling the property that was already at 750 on a property worth about $1.2 million, she got nervous and said, just put it up for 550. So they mark it down to 550. He was the first one there, which is always important. You want to be number one. You want to be there first or second. If you can't be there first, be there second. But he got there, got it wrapped up, got it tied up. But here's the deal. They just marked it down from 750 to 550. And what he does is says, I'll give you 350. And it was like, take it or leave it, sign it now or forget it. And he got it. He got it signed. So think about that. They dropped the price $400,000. They had been at 750. They moved it down to 200, but they immediately took an offer for another 200 less than that. You wouldn't expect that normally.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the desperate times and the desperate moves that people make. Whenever there's a big change in the country like this, there's opportunities. But you got to be patient, and you got to have your eyes open and peeled, and you got to be proactive, and you'll see those opportunities where you can't get hurt. In other words, you could buy, he buys it for that, and you know what I mean? He's got a lot of room for things to go down, and he can speculate and hold for a while if he wants, or he can say, I'm done. And he could flip it as a fixer-upper right now.
We're going to go back to Johnny. He was given a little bit more.
On his condo?
Yeah, about his condo. He basically said, look, I want to use the money to buy a new property to live in and fix up and then sell, kind of live in DIY project kind of thing. He said, I became self-employed. I can't access a home equity line of credit. I'd have to sell. Okay. So, again, I mean, to live into something and sell it.
No, hey, I didn't live in the first 5 houses that I bought. I didn't live in any of them. And so I totally am on board with, if it's your only property and you're living in it, sell it. It doesn't matter. If it's declining, and I am pretty sure it is, it's going down in value right now, it's not going to hurt you to get rid of it. Get rid of it, get the cash, market goes down a little bit more. Even if you are a retail buyer, you could even make the argument that I'm just going to sell it now and I'm going to buy it back for $20,000 less down the road. Yeah. And that happens. I've seen guys buy condos for $750,000, lose their ass, sell it for $550,000, seen the condos go down even further to $250,000, $350,000, and then they bought again. And they made up for their losses. But
sure. So Brian Gonzalez said, would you send market letters in this market, or would you hold and save more money as a new investor?
That's more of a classroom question, but yeah, there is something to it. Look,
like I guess maybe let me ask it this way: do you think there's going to be people out there that are eager to sell their homes in this market, or?
I mean, I don't like to just say homes, and I was just the person you were talking about before when you were talking about who's got the apartment. Johnny is look, Johnny, don't wrap yourself around the idea that you need to buy a fixer-upper and move into a fixer-upper. I mean, keep it as an option for sure, but you wouldn't believe how many times you'll be able to walk in and buy somebody that's in the middle of doing exactly what you're describing, but now their plans changed, and you take it off their hands right after they fix, like this car. My car's all fixed up, right? Believe me, I did not want to buy one of these and go through the bullshit of fixing it up. Instead, somebody else who went all the trouble to fix this car up behind me, and now they need money, and I came in and bought it fairly cheap, to be honest. And so that can happen with you. Listen, there's couples that go, they do a remodel together, redo their house, and by the time they're done, they hate each other, and they get rid of the place. And they get rid of it cheap because they're done with each other. There's stuff like that happens. So, like I say, keep your eyes open. One of the reasons I always make money in general every year in real estate is that I'm not stuck on one kind of property. I bought apartments, I buy industrial buildings, commercial buildings, strip centers, offices, junkyard type properties. I mean, anything, because it's all about
Mm-hmm.
am I buying it under market? There's no bad real estate.
777 asked about this. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, Tom. He's saying, love all the ideas. Thank you, guys. He says, how about large anchor retail? And we're talking about Kroger, Planet Fitness, national chains, some of these really big commercial buildings that you see with the giant parking lots.
Sure.
Have you bought stuff like that before or looked at it?
Well, not on that size, but sometimes first of all, I wouldn't buy a big gym. I wouldn't buy a Planet Fitness. I mean, the COVID kind of stuck that up. And I've got several gyms that rent from me, not that quite that size, but I mean, I've got jujitsus and, dances places and Montessori schools. And I have a lot of different schools that rent from me that are of different types. And I kind of consider a gym a little bit like that, but
I feel like the cap rate's usually lower on some of those really.
No, I've looked at some stuff, and like I say, there's the Kroger, or there's other smaller grocery chains that are also. There's one, Lowe's is another one, Lowes, I think it is, or Loews.
Yeah, that's right.
And listen, it's all about the math, but I mean, consider if you're looking at buying a little grocery store, what's on the map around you? Is there a big one coming in that's going to wipe them off the map? A lot of times when you'll see somebody put a property up for sale and says, yeah, the owner will lease back for 3 years at this high rate, you got to think something smells there. And believe me, I just bought a building for $1.6 million that included the owner leasing back from me for 3 years. But I made sure that nothing smelled, that they were solid. And I'm glad I did. And it's a great tenant of mine. But anchor stores, like I said, it depends on the store. If it's a grocery store, to be honest, I like it.
777, he says, I'm looking at a Kroger that's a strong 7 cap with a fresh, long lease.
Does it have some little ancillary properties around it besides that, or is it just one store?
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that. While we're waiting for him.
The only thing I don't like about it is that you're stuck at a 7 cap. That I don't like. Believe me, I love buying places that have 15, 20 tenants in it, and their leases are coming up in a year, and they're under market.
Every year you can alter the rent.
Yeah, I mean, if you got 10 tenants, or what did you say, 10 tenants, and they're all about $500-600 a month under market, you go in there and you say, hey, listen, I'm buying this for a lot more than the previous owner. I got to bring your rent up. Now you bring them up to what it should be, or very close. I like to rent stuff a little under market all the time. But let's just say you got room to go up, $600 a month on everybody, and you go up $450 or $500. Well, you do that times 10, you add $60,000 a year to your income. You just made that property worth roughly $1 million more.
Yeah, just
purely from on a cap rate.
3 structures. The Kroger stands alone with a fuel center, total of 120,000 square feet.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, and if you can count on them leasing for a long time, that they're a big company. They'll they can back it up. Yeah. Just double check your leases. You got to go through the lease that they're signed in and make sure that there's not an escape clause that would devastate you as an investor.
This is interesting. I love how people get creative. Jermone said, a buddy of mine has a half-acre lot near a school zone area that he's open to putting a few charging stations on. Would that be a wise move on his part?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's kind of,
like I said, you're describing a gas station in a school zone. I don't think so.
It's creative. I mean, you got moms, dads going to pick up their kids. If you got an electric car and you know that those charging stations are there,
but how long does it take to charge your car?
I heard somebody say recently, like maybe 20 minutes.
Oh, that's fast.
If you get one of the,
I think they have rapid charging.
Rapid chargers. So, again, Jerome, personally, I'm like, oh, that's a really creative way to use the half-acre lot. I always like to try to think of what could this lot also be used for in the future, and if I do put charging stations on there and it doesn't work out, how much money am I going to be out to
yeah, but Jermone, here's what I don't like about it is you're doing something new. Okay, if you want to be in business, you want to create a business, believe me, I've created businesses, and I've been happy that I did. There's other ones that I wish I hadn't bothered. Okay, you're better off. Listen, the power of buying used, the power of buying something that already exists. that the reason that's so important, that's why I love real estate, was here before we were, it's been sold 50 times before we were ever born, right? Or maybe even more. The power of something that already exists, something that is already proven that works and runs or exists, a rental. If it's been around, it means there's a good chance it's completely paid for, or it's something that can be sold for less than it's worth. When you go in and you buy a lot and you decide you're going to put in the infrastructure and you're going to, I don't know what these things cost to put on there. I have no idea what it costs to, and there may be some government benefit, some kickbacks. I don't know. But barring that, if you're going to be like a developer and a creator, there's just risks associated with that, because you buy the land and now you're losing time while you're putting in these, improvements. You're not making any money, and then what can change, you don't know, and it's not even a proven company. So anyways, I would say
rents are proven.
Yeah, I think I'd rather buy an existing charging station at a discount where I can measure the profits, already know what it makes, and get it on bargain.
But here's another thought, Jerome, because I know Tom does this. Got a half-acre lot. Is it residential? Is it commercial? Is it, like what is it zoned for? Could you put food trucks on that lot? A couple snow cone trucks.
He probably can't, because there's not a bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, yeah. Listen, I had 50 acres, and it had a very small patch of it was on the main road, but I rented that little main patch was kind of a staging area for a form guy, a guy that does the forms for the concrete slabs. Oh, yeah. They're building a lot of homes in the area. They need a place to, they basically go out and form, and then they rip, they call it wrecking it, when you're taking on the 2x4s and different things that formed up the slab. They call it, you wreck that, throw that in the truck, then they come back to the yard, and then you got young guys there pulling nails, cleaning all the boards so they can be reused, stacking them so they don't warp and twist. And location is important for that, depending on where you put it. And but repurposing, the land is important. And like Chris said, I've done it with food parks as well on some of my property, and it's paid off. But it's pretty simple. It's just math.
Yeah.
But if you can buy something already existing that's working, you have the ability to look at it, measure it, see how good it is, and make an offer based on that deal.
Yeah, like today, whenever the agent told me, here's what this home would rent for, and there really aren't a lot of rentals in this area, I think it would rent quickly.
Right, and you know that about the area already. You're not just trusting them.
Yeah, no. I know the area. I frequent there often, and I'm like, okay, well, if I buy it for this, and I can rent it for this, it's, I've been talking about people that are watching, you probably know about the 1% rule, but if it can rent at 1% of your purchase price, you're doing pretty good. Like, that's hard to come by.
Right, and and there's a variable to that, and I'll explain what it is. The 1% rule kind of is good for properties that you're financing up to almost 10%. Okay, it's hard to hit that 1% rule sometimes when you're getting down to stuff that's that you're buying for even. You know what I mean? In other words, it'll cover it still. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the
that's the mortgage, right?
So yeah, you're talking about covering the interest on the mortgage. Yeah, that sort of thing. But so you can variate from that. Sometimes you don't have to get a full 1%. You can still do quite well. You still can have a pretty high cap rate, as long as if your interest is down there at 3%. You know what I mean? You can. But like I say, we got Kai in the class. He's done fantastic. Got a bunch of stuff. Young man, and I think he's 30. And he's got duplexes and houses, and he's doing really well. He's really he's doing quite well. Yeah. And he's going for the 2%. He's going for the 2% rule.
Jeez. Johnny says, do you think Florida is going to go down significantly?
I don't know why it would. No, Florida's got a lot going for it. It's got a good governor, and it's got. They handled a lot of things really well. Plus, the weather's fantastic. I love Florida.
I even went in. I went on there to after that big hurricane hit recently. I was curious about property values, and I was like, man, I wonder if that side of the coast. I wonder if property values went down. A lot of people are trying to sell, and I was really surprised at how strong things held.
Well, it's a no state tax. There's no state tax in Florida, so people are coming there for that reason alone. And a lot of people that's an alternative place to live if you live in anywhere that's freezing, Midwest or New York. They call them what are they call them, snowbirds or sunbirds? I forget what they call them.
Snowbirds, yeah.
Yeah, and so they come down there for the winter, but they're getting taxed, and the crime is going through the roof in certain of these areas in New York, and people are saying, the hell with it, I'll move to Florida, and I won't pay any state tax anymore, and it'll be nice and cozy.
Yeah, I talked to a guy recently. He's sitting on a couple condos in Florida, and he's like, yeah, I was doing the math, and I think, together my couple of condos, I've got a couple $1 million sitting there.
Nice.
And I'm like, they're paid for? And he's like, yeah, they're paid for. I was like, well, what are you doing with that money? Yeah. And he's like, I'm not really doing anything with him. I'm just like,
he could do a lot more with that money. But you know what? I understand. I remember some guy, this old farmer, somebody's trying to give him $1 million for his, 160 acres or something like that. And the agent's trying to say, well, look, you make so much money. You take this and you get $1 million. You make so much money on this. And he said, well, look, I paid $100 an acre for that stuff. So I think I've been doing pretty good without your help so far. In other words, paid 16 grand. Now it's worth $1 million.
Yeah, that's good. Well, hey, we're gonna wrap up for today. But make sure you check out Tom's book if you haven't read it. Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate.
So I just want to leave you with if you guys, when you're looking at property right now, just kind of have your eyes wide open, and you can get ready to hit that button. Have your eyes wide open, because don't be set on just buying a duplex or trying to find a house. Keep your eyes wide open, because there's so many opportunities out there, and it can be land, it could be a house, it could be an apartment building, it could be something. My first property that I ever bought was a commercial. Was a commercial building, 19 years old. I paid $110,000, I think, $110,000. Owner financed. I had hair down to my shoulders. I looked like I was high all the time because I had allergies. I had bloodshot eyes, and I bought this thing. And then somebody offered me 20 grand more for it right after I purchased it. And now this is in 1981, 41 years ago. And that lit off a bulb in my mind when I could see the money that could be made. And I've been doing nothing but making money ever since, and you can do it. But start with the book, get the book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate, and then if you like that, go to the links below and check out, go to flipanythingusa.com, take the mentorship survey, sign up for the free webinar. In fact, I think we're giving away a free $500 gift card. Somebody will win that signs up. So do that, and anyways, thanks for watching.